All right, guys, 2025 is set to be a huge year for Nintendo, so I'm going to be breaking down what to expect from the Big N this year. We're going to go on first to start off with the early year because that's pretty much what's defined at this point. We kind of understand what's happening early in the year for 2025 with Nintendo. So I'm going to be breaking down all of the games that we do know about first party wise, maybe a few third party games as well, going over potential presentations that they could have, and of course Nintendo Switch 2 stuff, in addition to investor meetings, Pokemon events, Super Bowl commercials. There's all sorts of stuff that could be happening. So let's start off with the video games first and foremost. Donkey Kong Country Returns, that's coming out January 16th, so get excited for that if you're looking forward to playing some more Donkey Kong. That is a Wii game that has been remastered. It has the Nintendo 3DS content in there as well, all in one package, coming out on January 16th. Next up is Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. This is a Wii U game that has been remastered as well and added new content, which I think it's going to wrap up the story a bit better because in the original game on the Wii U, it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. So it looks like they're going to be wrapping up some extra story content for fans out there. So if you've already played Xenoblade Chronicles X, you still might want to play this one here. And it looks like they're going to be doing a bunch of tweaks and additions to the game. The online could be revamped as well. So there might be a lot to get into here. And going off of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which was the remaster of the Wii game on the Nintendo Switch, I think that there's going to be a lot of substantial changes just like there was in that game. Next up is Pokemon Legends ZA. That is a game that has no release date set for 2025, and we've really only seen one trailer on the game, but that will be released this year at some point on the Nintendo Switch. But I think that Nintendo might have bigger plans for that game as well, and we're going to get into that in just a bit. And then Metroid Prime 4. That's another game that is set for 2025, but just like Pokemon Legends ZA, I do think that Nintendo does have some bigger plans for that game, which we will talk about as well. And I think that we can all kind of look at the elephant in the room when it comes to Nintendo, the best kept secret, and that is the Nintendo Switch 2 and what's going to be going on with this system. So January seems to be the month, sometime this month, that we will see something from Nintendo on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, what could that be? That's what everyone is asking about. If you go back to what Nintendo did before in the past, essentially they had I would say a rollout of pretty much no news but slight teasing. There was a tweet here and there. There was a mention at E3 in 2016, but there wasn't really anything much outside of that. And then out of nowhere, right before the event, or right before more like the trailer, Nintendo said, hey, get a sneak peek at what we're going to be doing with the Nintendo NX. And then they had the trailer that showed off the rooftop girl and the guy playing it with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and then going out and walking his dog and everything. And that essentially was the first real reveal of the Nintendo Switch. We got the final name, we got the concept, we got some games, although Nintendo didn't confirm which games those were, but we knew that it was Legend of Zelda. We didn't know what Mario game that was. We can see that that was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe or Mario Kart 8, but we didn't know exactly what they were doing with it. We saw Splatoon, but we didn't know if that was a port of Splatoon 1 or if that was actually Splatoon 2. We saw Skyrim, we saw an NBA game, so they weren't confirming anything. They just showed off the concept and it worked. I think it was a hit at the beginning, but people were still skeptical overall. Then they waited a couple months, and then in January of 2017, they actually did a full reveal where we got the price, where we got the online in terms of what they were doing with that, where we got the concept of the Joy-Cons and the technology that they were using to help bring games to life a bit. We got everything that we needed to know. Pre-orders were going live right after that. It was just like a dump of information, in addition to a bunch of third-party games, individual presentations on those, a really weird, cringy part kind of with Suda51 because he went off script and he panicked the translator. It was pretty cool to see. It was a little bit of that old school E3 messing up flair, along with Nintendo Directs, because there was edited videos kind of jammed in there as well with trailers. First look at ARMS, first look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2, first look at Octopath Traveler, first look at Super Mario Odyssey, first look at 1-2 Switch, first look at so many titles that came out in that first year. And I think that that was a great presentation overall. And the more that I watched it, the more that I was sold on the concept. So could Nintendo do something very similar to that? Absolutely, they could. They could absolutely go through and say, hey, we're going to have a short trailer not at this point and then a presentation later. But I think that this one's a little bit weird because Nintendo seems to be, they're going to be doing everything right here in this year. Whereas before in the past, when it came to the Nintendo Switch, they did it from one year to the next year and then ramped up. So it could kind of lead to the Nintendo Switch 2, once again, having a shorter time period between when they first reveal it, when they show off a presentation, and when the system launches, because they don't have to necessarily explain the concept over again. They don't have to go over exactly what this type of system is, because it was a newer concept for Nintendo, not an unheard of concept, not something that's never been done before. But when it comes to the big three with Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, definitely something new, and new for Nintendo as in they've always had two separate devices and games built specifically for each of those devices, with sometimes the ability to take your portable games and put it to some contraption and play it on the TV, like the Super Game Boy or like the Game Boy Advance player, something like that. But this time it's like, no, we're not doing that. We're actually having it to where all your games are available anywhere that you want, and it's just one game. You don't have to buy two Mario games or two different types of games or two Smash Brothers games with the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS. You just get one game, and we're going to pack everything we can into that one game. The Nintendo Switch is the second best selling Nintendo device of all time, right behind the Nintendo DS, and it's the third best selling device of all time, behind the PlayStation 1 at number 1 and the Nintendo DS at number 2. So clearly it was a success. So I can see them pretty much furthering that when it comes to the concepts, but then adding in new stuff when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2, new technologies into the Joy-Cons, new stuff with DLSS, new stuff when it comes to the chipset, the graphics much better overall, more memory, more RAM, more everything. And I think that they're going to really take advantage of that when they show off the system with the games, because people are talking about when it comes to what to expect from Nintendo, what can they do, what new gimmicks are they having. Well, the biggest thing is the games, guys. The games sell the system. So if they have the huge games, which you could expect there to be big games outside of the four that I mentioned with Donkey Kong and Xenoblade and Pokemon Legends and Metroid Prime, expect there to be a big 3D Mario revealed this year. Expect there to be a big brand new Mario Kart revealed this year as well. And if you go back to what Nintendo's done in the past when it comes to the Nintendo 3DS, that was exactly what they did to jumpstart the Nintendo 3DS when it was going through some tough times. So Nintendo could be thinking, hey, instead of waiting for that to happen, because this system will be more expensive than what Nintendo's ever done in the past, I do think that it will be minimum of a $399 price tag for this system. I think that if you jumpstart it right there at the beginning with a big 3D Mario and show off that new Mario Kart, you could avoid some of the problems that they had in the past with the Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS at launch, where the big first-party games were just not strong enough. So I think Nintendo is going to be very cognizant and aware of that situation and make sure that, yeah, like the sticker shock of $399, which is higher than any other Nintendo system ever, yes, that's going to be big, but at the same time, we're going to have these massive games that are going to be well worth your time and money. So I think that's the big thing to expect when it comes to Nintendo. Expect those big first-party games to be revealed in a trailer or presentation as well. So I expect that. Now we have Nintendo's investor meeting, which is happening in early February, and I think that Nintendo will definitely go into more questions about the Nintendo Switch 2 at that February meeting. Now, this could go two ways. If Nintendo has not revealed the Nintendo Switch 2 by the February meeting, then obviously they're going to be getting a lot of questions on the Nintendo Switch 2 and everything. So I think that the meeting will go a very different way. They could reveal more information then and there. They could have something planned around the meeting when it comes to right before it and all the questions and everything like that. So there could be a lot of different things that's kind of set up when it comes to how Nintendo handles that with their meetings and how that is. But once again, it's two different types of ways. You can have one point where they actually reveal the system beforehand, and then of course they're answering questions and we know a bit more information. And then on the other hand, they could have it to where it's like, okay, they haven't revealed it yet, but they're planning things around February. So we'll see how that works. We'll also get information on Nintendo's sales numbers, so we'll see exactly where the Nintendo Switch is at. It's estimated that the Nintendo Switch is right around 150 million units right now at this point after the holiday period, so we could hear about that, and it'd be the third system of all time to ever reach 150 million units, so that'd be a big milestone there. We'll also hear about Nintendo's best-selling games, so we'll see Mario Kart and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and the Pokemon games and Super Mario Odyssey. We'll see how those sold over the past quarter and the holiday season as well. And we'd probably, once again, get more information on Switch 2 if they've revealed it, or if they haven't, they'll still talk about it. So I do think that February is pretty much the latest Nintendo can go when it comes to revealing or talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 on a larger scale than just confirming a couple different things, which we will talk about some of those things as well. Now, Super Bowl commercial for the Nintendo Switch 2. That is also going to be a very big thing. They had one for the Nintendo Switch 1, so don't be surprised if they have a Nintendo Switch 2 Super Bowl commercial. Although I will say this, I've heard my friend Doc Trey and I've heard my friend Shadow Fox, they talked about it on their respective channels. Check those out. I'll have links in the description. But I do want to discuss this because the price for Super Bowl commercials has significantly shot up since 2017. Yes, Super Bowl commercials have always been expensive in the modern era. They've always been expensive in any era overall because the Super Bowl pulls huge ratings. But at the same time, like the commercials now, in terms of getting a 30-second ad spot, it's massive for it. So if Nintendo doesn't do a Super Bowl commercial, I wouldn't be that surprised just because the price for the commercials is just so much higher. Do they think that they actually need to spend the money on a Super Bowl commercial when they have a concept of the idea when it comes to Nintendo Switch? They know that's popular and maybe they can probably take that money and invest it into other marketing. So you can take that money and have like a bunch of other commercials on various numbers of sites for the same price that you would get one Super Bowl commercial. So I would be just a little wary of that. They might want to take that money that they would spend on one Super Bowl commercial and spread it out to multiple different areas in terms of marketing. So I'm not 100% sold on a Super Bowl commercial or an ad spot, but I do think that it could happen. But Nintendo might want to spend that money on various other places because for that one Super Bowl commercial, you could probably get multiple other commercials and multiple other things because Super Bowl commercials are just super expensive. And of course, I'll look up the price for a Super Bowl commercial coming up in 2025 here. So it's probably going to be pretty staggering overall. So we'll see about that. Now, I do want to talk about Pokemon Day in February as well. So I think that for those that are looking for more information on Pokemon Legends ZA, expect that is where you're going to get it in the Pokemon Day for February. Pokemon is very interesting because when it comes down to what they've done before in the past, this is unprecedented for Pokemon. Usually when they show a Pokemon game, we will get more information about it within the coming months or something like that. But they have literally been radio silent on Pokemon Legends ZA since the reveal last year. They've said nothing else about the game. So what does that tell me? That tells me that one, they're definitely listening to what happened with Pokemon Legends Arceus in addition to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. They showed off those games and clearly graphically and frame rate wise, they weren't up to snuff. Now, Pokemon Legends a bit different from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I felt that Pokemon Legends ran okay, especially portable mode. Graphics weren't the best, but they were definitely acceptable for what the game was doing. But obviously, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was a huge backlash in terms of frame rate and in terms of the graphics and what they're trying to do. Now, the scope and scale of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is way bigger than Pokemon Legends, but at the end of the day, you look at the end result to the point where Nintendo had to apologize for that performance. So I do think that going forward, they absolutely have to be cognizant of what is going on with the game. Don't show it off until you are absolutely ready. There's also the other factor of that this game is probably going to be a Nintendo Switch 2 title. I think that they are waiting to talk about it because they want to show that, hey, you're going to be able to get this game on Nintendo Switch 1 and you're going to be able to get this game on Nintendo Switch 2. Those are things that are going to happen. So I think that's another reason why they haven't talked about this game or shown this game much, is because they do want to talk about it when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2, where you are going to get better performance, better resolution. And I think that's going to be the saving grace for the Pokemon Company, at least when it comes to what they can do, or at least mitigating some of the issues, is having that stronger overhead to potentially cover the fact that maybe they aren't quite as good with some of the other things in the game. Now, there could be some renovations that they've done at Game Freak. There was Mr. Andy Robinson from VGC said that the Pokemon Company and Nintendo and all of them have heard the message loud and clear and are making adjustments to make sure that the situation with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet does not happen again. So maybe this is the precursor to that, to the fact that they haven't talked about the game at all and are waiting to be able to even show a Nintendo Switch 2 version that looks and runs a lot better, or considerably better than what the Nintendo Switch 1 version will be like. And if you keep the graphics right around the same of what you're expecting with the Nintendo Switch 1, but you just have a stronger system, that right there is going to give them a lot of leeway to make sure that everything looks and runs better, at least when it comes to resolution and frame rate. So we'll see about that. And I do want to talk just a little bit more about another game that is potentially getting the same treatment as Pokemon Legends ZA, and that's Metroid Prime 4. Once again, Metroid Prime 4 is a game that we don't have a release date for, but I think that Nintendo knows the release dates, at least internally. They know when they're going to be launching Pokemon Legends ZA. They know when they're going to be launching Metroid Prime 4, but they're holding on to these games because those are going to be Nintendo Switch 2 games as well, or launch into the Nintendo Switch 2 era. So I think that's exactly why we haven't got the release dates for Metroid Prime 4 and for Pokemon Legends ZA, but we've got the release dates for Donkey Kong Country Returns and Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which, once again, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition was announced after Pokemon Legends ZA, but yet it has a release date. That tells me that they know what the release date is for Pokemon Legends ZA. They're just not talking about it because there is huge Nintendo Switch 2 implications with the game. Now, I'm going to Metroid Prime 4. The game looks pretty good when it comes down to a Nintendo Switch 1 game. It looks solid, but man, imagine having a Nintendo Switch 2 version of that game. I think we can expect that Nintendo is going to fully take advantage, along with Retro Studios, of course, of what the Nintendo Switch can do with Metroid Prime 2. That is the perfect, or at least a side note selling point when it comes down to it. Metroid Prime on the original GameCube was a centerpiece game. It showed off what that system could do if you really took your time to program and code for it. I think that Metroid Prime 4, although it's a base Nintendo Switch 1 game, and it's going to be one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive game looking graphically on the system, Metroid Prime 4 on the Nintendo Switch 2 could also show off what that system could do. Heck, look at Metroid Prime on the GameCube. The art direction and design is so good. They remastered that game and put it on the Nintendo Switch, and it's still one of the best looking games on the platform. So I do feel that Retro Studios has something up their sleeve along with Nintendo with Metroid Prime 4 on the Nintendo Switch 2. So you can maybe expect that for 2025 with Nintendo. Now, there are more things that we can talk about when it comes to Nintendo in 2025. They're going to have some third-party games as well when it comes down to Nintendo Switch 1. We've got Atelier Yumiya. That game's coming. There's other big titles that I've talked about in some of my roundup videos. We've got stuff like some classics being remastered. We got the Lunar games coming. We've got Suikoden as well. We've got Tales of Graces. So there's some great JRPG action that's coming. Freedom Wars, but I do think that with the Nintendo Switch 2, you could expect in 2025 a lot of the big AAA games, some of them more like it, that missed out on the Nintendo Switch, where you were kind of scratching your head saying, hey, where are those at? You could maybe expect those to be on the Nintendo Switch 2 as first-year titles. Let me give you a couple examples. Maybe games like Elden Ring, for example, Persona 3 Reload, Metaphor ReFantazio, Tales of Arise. These are the games that are based on the PlayStation 4 that I think that companies were holding out a bit, and they're coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. That's what I think is going to happen. So expect there to be some of the older PlayStation 4 games, PlayStation 5 games that came out in 2021, 2022, those type of year games, 2023. Expect some of those games to be over on the Nintendo Switch 2 on their brand new system. And I do think that they're going to sprinkle them in. I do think that there is going to be a larger base of developers, especially Japanese developers, that support the Nintendo Switch 2 in year one compared to the Nintendo Switch 1. So you can expect there to be more third-party Japanese support within the first year or two on the Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 1, it had some Japanese support. Capcom came in here and there. There was some Monster Hunter stuff as well, but there wasn't a lot of some of those major games until later down the line. We didn't get Persona all the way until 2022, 2023 when it comes to the Persona titles. So expect those to be a lot sooner. Expect there also to be upgrades to Nintendo Switch 1 games. So if you have the Nintendo Switch 1, there could be upgrades that you can download for free or even a charge on the Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes to third party and even Nintendo's own first party titles. So I think it's going to be very interesting when it comes down to how Nintendo handles that and what exactly third party companies do with all of those Switch Switch 1 games, because it is already confirmed that there is backwards compatibility with Nintendo Switch software, so that's good. That's physical and digital for those who don't know. And then there's also going to be Nintendo accounts. So if you have a Nintendo account, your digital games, NSO, eShop, all that type of stuff, that's going to be on the Nintendo Switch 2. So you will be able to transfer that over and have access to your digital library as well. So there's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff to expect from Nintendo in 2025, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all works out. But what are your thoughts on this, guys, when it comes to Nintendo's 2025 and what to expect? Is there anything that you are expecting that you think could happen this year? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.